Okay.
One, two,
We're live.
what's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Tech Guy Quarantine Show. This is Levon,
Rod.
Omar.
and we
Lauren.
have two very special guests.
It's real,
Can I introduce you?
it's real
Can I
stuff.
bring you in?
In
Can I
true
can I
proverbial paradigm fashion.
can I bring you guys in? Am I allowed to,
Sure.
or you want to just walk by yourself?
Yeah,
You
they
just
good.
want to walk by yourself?
They grown. They got
All right.
I can.
So no, it's all right. So we're gonna do a proverbial paradigm style. Okay, start from the beginning. All right, 5, 4.
3, 2. Hey,
You don't
everybody.
say one.
No, that comes
You
next.
don't say 2 or 3.
All right, guys. So welcome everybody. This is Levon O. Rod with Tech Guy Smart by Quarantine Show. And we have two very special guests, Lauren and Jen from Proverbial Paradigm. You can catch them definitely on their SoundCloud. Wonderful topics these young ladies discuss, and it is amazing.
So go ahead.
Kind.
Exactly.
Thank
Well, no,
you.
hey, listen,
I
I
agree.
like them. You, oh, good. You said that like you're reading from a card. I agree. I got my cue. No, it's great. I love the last topic that you guys discussed. But before we go into that, do you
Like you
guys
do.
mind? Huh? No, I do. I listen. I'm a subscriber.
Ooh.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Glad you guys finally
Wow,
got it. Go ahead.
Jen, you're sharing your cue card with Lauren.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Never mind. I agree. All right. So before we go into it, I know everyone's been, eyes wide open to what's been going on in the world other than COVID and our quarantining.
Wait, COVID's
We've
still a
been
thing?
I'm sorry?
Said I didn't know COVID was still a thing.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, no, we took a break from COVID to start talking about some of these real issues in the world. The protesting and some of the rioting. It's been a very difficult time for us in this world. And trying to maintain a positive outlook on it all. But we are here, Tech Guys, Proverbial Paradigm. To keep everyone entertained, and we're gonna get into a little bit about those different things happening. But anything we want to talk about first? Just kind of open the floor real quick, or we want to just kind of start hitting on some of the protests.
Oh man, just lead the way. Start it off. See what do you have
Okay.
on
thing.
the agenda list.
I'll take it.
All right. So with for anyone that's completely oblivious to what's happening, we're definitely talking about the protest that's been occurring. Rest in peace to George Floyd. His funeral was just yesterday. And the protest is so much more than just looting and rioting. It's so much more than just police and whites. The protest is about racism, for anyone that's just unclear of what the protest is for and how it is insanely overdue to bring this to the table, discuss it, and let's put an end to it. So for anyone that was just so confused that it was more about races hating another race, it's not. It's about racism. Guys, let's who wants to kind of interject? Anything you guys want to say in regards to it, just with what's been happening?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think what a lot of people who don't get the issue is, well, actually, let me take it back. A lot of people seem to take this specific killing really seriously because I think we saw it on camera. It wasn't a shooting. Shootings, there's always that area of, oh, I feared for my life, so I reacted very quickly. This was like, and you made an effort, like you made a decision to keep your knee on someone's neck for almost 9 minutes until they literally died. I still haven't watched the full video because I can't, I don't
It's
need
hard.
to. Yeah, I know what happened. It's traumatizing.
It is.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to watch. And you're right.
Some footage last night. My wife showed me of the paramedic, of the ones with the paramedics come in check on them.
I did. Yeah, I watched that part.
Yeah, it's insane. But I think what's happening in our world, I think it's definitely beginning to pull blinders up for a lot of folks. It's definitely starting to help them see what's been said for so many years, and and I don't think it's just because of the incident itself. I think it's because there's just a lot more visible signs that that this ugly monster of racism still exists, and we need to really just end it. We need to put a complete end to it. So I'm glad that the protesting is happening. I do have to say, I'm not completely crazy about some of the rioting and looting, because to have a purpose definitely means to have a message behind what you're doing. And for anyone that's doing any of this with no message behind it, it's shameful, selfish, and it becomes very, very hard to really, distinguish the two. What's the riot, what's the protest, and what's just plain old looting and stealing. But for those that are doing it the right way, continue with the movement, continue with just empowering and enlisting. I think it's very important. Now, one thing I want to talk about, just kind of moving from that area, is in concern with COVID, because that's still a very real thing. We have phase 2 for a lot of states that's coming into play, where there's more jobs that are about to open up. We have a major part of phase 1 in New York, where they're beginning to start to open up the entertainment industry, whether it be football games, sporting events, movies, Broadway shows, things like that. That's starting to open back up. So I want to find out, what do we think is going to happen with a lot of the members of the protest and some of these companies that say, yes, we stand with you, but after a while, you have to continue with what your business is. Not to say that they are no longer with the Black Lives Matter, or with Human Lives Matter, or with just ending racism, but just trying to conduct a business in general. So what do you guys think?
I think action is more helpful than a little statement that all these companies are doing and different things, which is fine. It's like, it's the thing to do. It's like, F that, prove it, hire, get, your diversity, your management and diversity team shouldn't look, like the old slave guild. Hire some people. There's plenty of talented people out here. Do it, prove it. And I think with the protests, with the things opening back up, I think people will be very hesitant to go places. I mean, maybe a few places they might go, but people ain't going to the movies right now, like in like 2 weeks when things open up. Hell no. Mask and all, I mean, unless they come up with some weird, wild way of doing it outside of the driving thing that we suggested that they're implementing. I would like to see more of that. But outside of that, I'm not sure how, I guess, the protesting versus opening back up, I'm not sure how that will work out, because I think, I'm not saying a lot of the protesters are people who got laid off or furloughed or anything, but they're not like a lot of people in prominent positions out there on regular. So I think they'll expect people to come back, but I think some people was like, do something first, then we'll come back. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I saw that they have some actually there was a picture, I don't know if it was legit, I didn't have time to fact check it, but they had people supposedly at, I think it was a basketball game or baseball game during the 1918 pandemic, and it was like a bunch of men in old-timey clothes with masks on. So assuming that the picture is real, it's happened before. I don't know how comfortable I would be, because there are people out there who are still not into the mask concept. And at one of these protests in Long Island, there was a group of people marching, and some woman was arguing with one of the protesters. He was being really nice and even tempered with her, and she was just attacking him like, why are you out here, like you don't belong with them. He was a white protester. And then she goes, why do you have that mask on? And he said, because I care about my health and my family's health. And she said something to him like, you're an idiot. Like, he was just a complete moron. You're an idiot because you care about Black people, and you're stupid for caring about your health.
Wrong.
I don't trust those people, because we live in the tri-state area, and some Long Island. I mean,
We
North Holland.
probably should have always been wearing masks, to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
Probably.
You know what? It's funny because a lot of the health officials they've said it, like they're little. I watch some of these little web broadcast that people have other than just ours. But I've seen some of the doctors. They talk about, yeah, that was a shameless plug throughout the show. Uh, they were just talking about how it's difficult for them to have to wear a mask all day, knowing that it's purposeful for the safety of patients and things, but it's not something that we should be accustomed to, because you're now suppressing some of those natural germs that you're supposed to be getting into your body to help you fight off some of these normal colds and flus and things. You're not building up your immune system pretty much. So it's weird that they talked about it that way, but it's like, but wait, but it's the medical field that said that it's vital for us to maintain our health to wear these masks. So how crazy is that?
Yeah. I think they have a good point. It's a valid point that we need to wear it for now so that the emergency rooms can all get back to normal. But yeah, after a couple of months, certainly when a vaccine comes out, I think it's probably best for us to go back to normal for immunity boosting purposes.
Who's taking the vaccine when it comes out?
Ooh.
Mm.
Lauren.
Not I.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
Not I.
Lauren's not gonna be online first
Nah.
for that.
If I do, I'll be last. Oh, no.
It's tough to say. And I'm gonna say that honestly, it's tough because certain jobs may require you to have the vaccine, whether you want to do it or not. It's going to be a matter of, okay, either you take the vaccine or you're no longer working here. And then there's also the level of, do you really want to if you're gonna, let's say kids going back to school and they're requiring all the kids to do it, what type of an example do you show for your kids if you're saying you're not going to get it but you make your kids get it, so it becomes tough. And I bring in the kids because right now our future is the kids, it's the youth of America, and the direction that we're going in will definitely determine how they're brought up, later on. Not just the protests and things, but even with the option of taking a vaccine or not, or the requirement to take a vaccine over, whatever may occur.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see the anti-vaxxers when they have to take their kids or they can't go to school, what the argument's going to be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's people who have a lot of sympathies for anti-vaxxers, but after this pandemic, how much sympathy can you really have if you have to get vaccinated? Or I don't want your kid next to my kid because he can make my kid sick.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know if in the case of an adult and their job, like my job doesn't know that I got the polio vaccine. So why does COVID matter?
Right.
So like they never asked
Right,
for
that's
my
true.
immunization record before. So
Well,
they don't even know if I'm vaccinated at all right now.
Yeah. But I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think some people, their concern with this pandemic was the government overreach, because you had to have your vaccination records to work in certain fields or to get into school. But as you become older, yeah, we never had an incident like this. I think a lot of people became uncomfortable with the fact that with the government telling us, okay, you have to shelter in place and you can't even open your own business. People started feeling like, wait, you're getting in our business too much. So I think with that being said, this might open the door to them starting to do something like that, where, maybe they are going to start telling people that, especially that work in certain fields, it could happen. I mean, the only reason I don't want to take this first batch is because until we have new leadership that's not financially invested so heavily in all these different companies. I mean, his son-in-law and people, it's a little too close for comfort. And I just feel like this is too close to how zombie movies start. I just don't feel comfortable. Like it's always some tyrannical leader, right?
Yeah.
And some magical vaccine.
Right.
Lauren, I've been thinking that
The umbrella company.
this whole
Oh yeah.
right.
Yep.
Raccoon City. I've been thinking that
Yep.
this whole Jumanji level, this new Jumanji level, it made me think about all of that. I was like, yo, in level number 8, that's when it starts. Because right now we're only at level 4. No, level 6. I'm sorry, we're at level 6.
Yeah.
We passed the killer.
Yes, we made it. But
We made it. Yeah, but how difficult? Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, how difficult would that be? I already started to imagine, medical fields where you're directly involved with like a patient care. I can imagine that may potentially become a mandatory thing. at one point, fingerprinting and tetanus shots and things like that, like that became mandatory to take certain jobs, and it's usually jobs that are going to pay better. So if the incentive is there for people to, hey, well, maybe I should take this, I think against their own better judgment, they may do it. I'm not looking for anyone to lose a job at all, but it can definitely be one of those things where if a corporate company is really big on, no, I can't do this unless all my employees have this vaccine, then if they don't have it, they can walk. And solidarity, because we're talking about solidarity, and we're talking about how, what may happen with everyone returning to work. What if that becomes the case? What if that becomes a new fight in corporate America, which shouldn't be, but that can slow down production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can. I think I mean I can only really speak for myself. Right now I'm working from home. I have one of my team members who did get diagnosed with COVID-19 and was out for about a month. Um, so that raises a concern. Like, is that still really okay? I know you can quarantine yourself for 14 days or whatever, but I feel like even now we don't know much about this virus. So that raises a question of, even if we do open up the offices and we all go in, are we still safe? Are we still wearing masks? Like, how does that work? And then there's the other part where, um, we're just all not comfortable, and my employer sent out a survey asking if we had any pre-existing conditions, if we had any childcare issues. So are they going to phase us back into the office based on, anyone who doesn't have children or any pre-existing conditions? But in my opinion, that raises a red flag of an HR issue. So, for example, when you go into like an interview, they're not allowed to ask you if you drive a car. They're not allowed to ask you if you have children. They're not allowed to ask you your age. These are all red flags when you go into an interview. And now all of a sudden, this survey of whether or not I have children is sent out. And, and maybe I feel that way because I don't have children, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if I don't have children and I don't have any pre-existing conditions, that means that it's okay for me to go into the office. So how do you make that decision based on, like the survey answers?
Well, I mean, honestly, the things that happened the last 3 months are all like life changing and world changing, just in the point that what's happened, like COVID. When COVID first happened, the whole world literally had to change, and the whole world will never go back to what it was. Like literally, the privacy issues that you're talking about might never go back to the way they were before. There might be stipulations we're saying because of this pandemic, those rights might have to be waived because we live in a world where now we have viruses to worry about, not just nuclear bombs. Just like back in the 50s, right after World War II, you had to go through all these bunker shelters and all these drills. Like you hear the alarm sometimes, especially in Patterson, you hear these sirens pop up. Back in the day, those sirens were used to tell people, okay, this is a drill. Let's practice our nuclear bomb shelter skills. If you go into any school, like in School 18, you would see the nuclear bomb signs on the side saying this is a bomb shelter. You can come in here, go to the basement, and you should be safe. That things changed after that because of World War II, because of the dropping of the atomic bomb in Japan. This COVID is going to change the way we do business from now on. Like going to think that we can go back to normal, that's never going to happen again. Like handshakes are out for most people. And a lot of, especially Asian countries, if somebody does feel like they have a cold, they're already going to wear a mask because they're actually considerate enough that they don't want anybody else to get sick. So that's why for them it wasn't as bad as other countries because they already had that instilled in them. Like if they felt sick or they were coughing, they would wear a mask out in public because that's how their culture is. In Japan, when I lived there for about a year, you could tell who felt sick because they had the mask on them. Because if they coughed or anything, they wanted to make sure nobody else got sick. That's why their numbers were so low for a lot of the Asian countries, because of the fact that if you go to other countries where people just cough and walk up, like in the U.S., people just be coughing around, and knife coming in their mouth.
Mhm.
Fuck, this is
What
disgusting.
are we? We're like,
Yeah, it's
we want-
disgusting.
so it's a cultural thing, and for other countries, that culture might not be something that's changed. For us, it's something that's completely changed and it's changed America on a lot of different facets. And I think it's just one of those things that we're just gonna have to get used to. We're gonna have to welcome it, just like they did after the World War II with all the bomb drills and stuff like that. This is something we're just gonna have to like welcome, because if it is true, and we are gonna get a second wave, and this is gonna be a seasonal thing, then just like before, people started getting flu vaccines and stuff. Now it's gonna become another vaccine. You gotta get your flu vaccine, and you gotta get your COVID vaccine, and God knows what else is coming down the line. Especially with everybody who's like everybody who keeps saying that has the climate change happens, there's gonna be more viruses that were once frozen that are just gonna become that were dormant, not dormant anymore. I mean, if that's just the beginning, like medically, the whole world's gonna keep changing, and we're never gonna go back to the way things were. And I don't know if that's a
That
good
fallout,
thing, bad thing, but that's where we are now.
these fallout shelters are about to be overpacked. It sounds like
For real.
the zombie apocalypse is on our tails. So it's funny that you should say that, because I'm wondering if we find out. And I really shouldn't say this because that's bad.
That's
June
how you can
5th,
say
20. No, I am. June 5th. I'm still going to say it. June 5th, 2020. I'm saying these words. If we don't see another version of COVID come
We
in the
will.
next year or two, wait a second, in the next year or two as a seasonal thing, is it safe to say that this was truly manufactured, this entire ruse?
Are we
Uh,
going conspiracy theory now?
I'm a
There's not really
It's
conspiracy.
okay.
conspiracy theory,
So
We,
like,
we like to do that every now and again.
I, I'm pretty much a conspiracy theorist. I believe it was.
Yeah, I think it was orchestrated. I
I
mean,
don't know if it was orchestrated, but I'm sure somebody was working on this and shit got out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Either
don't
way.
See,
think, but I
that's
don't
what I
think it was
feel.
an accident
Yeah.
that it got out.
Yeah. It all goes
Um,
back to being man-made.
no, see, I don't think it was an accident that it got out. I think it was an accident that it went as far as it did.
You think it was
Remember, usually when
China?
usually when certain things I'm saying usually, but from the conspiracy theorist manual, when when you put out
Possibly,
something, when something is put out, it's usually put out in a controlled setting until it's no longer a controlled setting.
right?
So if
Yeah.
this was put out
This was
and it was
botched.
put out in a controlled setting and it was a botched experiment, they say, oh, and I know, please nobody comment on this per se, but I know, because I know that this is not true, but
Yes.
they tried to say, thank you, oh, they tried to say, the AIDS virus got out because of a monkey that scratched a human. No, I think it was intentionally put into a human, and therefore had to have a nice backstory to make it sound cool, or make it sound okay, not cool, make it sound okay, because it went further than they expected. It took a life of its own, and I think that's where we are with this right here. It took a life of its own. Yeah, it went viral, and it went viral faster than they were able to do anything about it. If these different variations of the flus are available and it all came off of one strain, then this right here, woo, imagine biochemical warfare. Well, that's hey Nadine, how are you? This
I mean, we don't
that's
have
where we
to
are.
imagine that, because
That's where we are.
indigenous people got smallpox from the Europeans, so they can
Mhm.
be genocided out of here. And then Tuskegee Airmen got tested on by medicine. Like,
Mhm.
biological warfare has been something that's been going on for generations, especially as a military tactic, even from the early Roman empires. Like it's happened, like, and it's happened in this country, and it's happened for purpose of gain, and
Right.
to oppress a whole group of people just because they were different, or they didn't want to give up their lands, or they were slaves and they didn't want to stay quiet or chained up. So I mean, it's not scary, it's real. It's now the scary part is how far will they go with this. That's the scary.
Exactly. That's the part that becomes a bigger issue. You know, it's so easy for us all to forget that this entire country premise was built on exactly what's happening now, and then from that chaos, it creates some sort of a change. And the goal is always to change for the good.
Right.
Whenever folks, whenever someone who's in more control sees a dollar sign as a better change for them, that's when you end up with continuous behavior, continuously having history repeat itself in the manner that it is. With
Destiny, trying to dodge taxes and all that stuff by looting, doing all this little stuff, same shit.
right. So I guess just to kind of talk a little bit about just with what's happening and how we feel that the space of the world may not change to anything that was close to what we once were. Do you think that changes the way social media interacts with one another? Because everything seems to be going more cyber with just attacks in general, whether it's bullying, whether it's trying to shame someone, which is still bullying. But do you think it's going to turn to social media, to social networking, being that we're not doing it face to face anymore?
It's a double-edged sword, I say.
Already there. Kids
True.
are getting bullied on TikTok and shit.
Yeah, I mean, it is a
already.
double-edged sword.
Come on.
TikTok
I mean,
just got
the
popping.
thing that this created was, for those who didn't believe like digital world was the future, this proved. I mean, perfect example. A lot of people ask their managers, "Hey, can I work from home?" No, they can't be done, and now everybody's working from home.
Mhm.
All of a sudden,
Prove that it can be
come out
done. The
of school,
future
right?
is remote working. The future is, the digital platforms that keep us engaged. The dangers are, as we've seen, especially.
Comfort.
No, I mean, it's not just the comfort. It's easier to rile up people and get people to turn on someone,
Yes.
and then not have to apologize. Because then everybody can say, "Oh well, so and so posted it first. I just reposted it." People don't understand that reposting is as much as code. Back in the day when you used to co-sign for somebody, so if they got fucked up, you could catch it too.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
remember
I like
shit.
that.
I remember.
I like that. I remember that.
Yeah, that's what reposting is co-signing. And back in the day, if you would sign it, he get his ass kicked, you get your ass kicked too. That's just the way it was. That's where we came from.
Guilty by association.
Exactly. But in the digital world, you wash your hands clean. You can accuse somebody of being something and then realize he's not, but like, hey, it wasn't my fault. I didn't post that. I just reposted it. And with that same
Yeah.
thing, it causes things to go off ramp. It causes things to just get out of hand without anybody taking any accountability. Again, there's that word from last week, accountability.
Yeah.
And it's so much so that even the news is getting away with it. They'll say something 1 minute, not true, get called out for it, and just keep it going. Like, hey, I don't know what they said. I'm gonna give you something else.
It's a recant.
Oh, so everybody wants to be the weatherman.
Right.
Everybody wants to be able to show up to their job, give all the wrong information, and still get paid the
still get
big
paid.
bucks and excuse the next day.
That wind.
Oh
that
man,
wind came out of nowhere.
it's gonna be sunny out and it's a snowstorm. Well, in certain parts of the country, it was sunny.
Yeah.
Just not here.
It was sunny for 20 minutes, then it snowed, so I was not lying.
The sun was out while the snow was falling.
There you go.
Like that thunderstorm last night that came out of nowhere for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, that thunderstorm was crazy. Crazy. And
I must have been knocked
we had
out.
already listen, and we had already. You said you was knocked out.
I must have been.
No, it was pretty late though.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah, it was late.
I think
Yeah.
it was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, and it came in and it left out just as fast, but it was water everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was wet and slippery.
Glad I missed it.
Thank you, Lauren and Jennifer from Proverbial Paradigm. You guys, thank you guys very
They
much.
don't miss a beat, guys. They don't-
It was
Not at all.
just an interesting
Gotta
description.
love those ad libs.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
They're
I
there.
think to your point about social media, I think in the last actually since January, I would say I've relied on it a lot more for my news than the actual news.
Right.
Yes.
Because when all of that, when the virus started breaking out, I remember seeing videos back in like late December, early January, and nobody here was like really talking about it.
Mhm.
And then it was like mid-January, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, something isn't right. So I went on Amazon. I put goggles in my cart, masks. I even got like the hazmat suit. I got like 3 of those. But then I felt stupid because I was like, everybody around me kept saying like, whatever, it's not a big deal. So I was like, okay, either I'm a psycho or they're not taking it seriously. So I
Or
only
I'm
got
ahead of the curve. Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
which one am I? So I
You watch
settled
too many
on
movies.
yes, I do. And
Yeah.
I binged The Walking Dead. I watched
Oh
like
my
Z
gosh.
Nation a year ago. Like I'm obsessed with
Okay.
zombie stuff. So I thought, okay,
Me
maybe I'm
too.
being a crazy person. I
Two
mean,
different reasons.
for two different reasons. But I settled on the masks. Okay, is the point. But I felt like I was getting more reliable news and reports from people in China than I was getting on the actual news because they were more focused on the
That's a fact.
election and things like that. And then with everything going on now with the protests and the looting and all that, I'm getting more reliable information from there. But I
From
did,
even from people going live.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
whatever
Right.
Anything is it's
form.
like anything is better than the news these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
I
is
could.
sad because we always resorted to the news before this. Before this, we resorted to the news
Mhm.
for everything. So how long, which we've all people have always said it, how long have we been getting lied to and we've been building into these lies? And think of the older people in this world that still have a hard time with understanding that this is real. This isn't just some play thing. This isn't going to just go away because it's the moment. This is really happening right now. What in the world? What are we
Right.
supposed to do?
Yeah, and to Lauren's point, I watched the show Insecure on HBO. So I follow one of the actors, Kendrick Sampson, and he was a part of the protests.
But you got hit with
Eh,
rubber bullets. Yeah.
yeah, he was a part of the protests, and I think maybe a couple of days ago he was going live, and the cops were telling everyone to disperse, right? But they were blocking every exit way.
So it's like leave. I want you to leave, but you're not letting me
But
leave.
I dare you.
Right.
Right,
Right.
so it was like there was nowhere to go, and that was way more intense than anything you can watch on CNN.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. I actually watched a few videos where people are live streaming their incidents where they're being either pulled out their car, or pulled over, and things like that. Because I think about some times that I've been through, and this one particular video, this young man he had, and he's like, "Officer, you won't let me leave." And you can hear the officer saying to him, "Put your hands on the steering wheel and get out the car." That's impossible.
Hmm.
So every time that he
That
went to
was
leave,
in Atlanta, right?
yes,
They pulled
get
them
Yeah.
out.
out the
Students, right?
yeah. Put your hands on the steering wheel and get out the car. Impossible. You can't do that. And then he's like, "All right, get out the car. Get out the car before I pull you out. All right, get out the car before I pull you out." The kid, he's like, it looks like he's trying to get out, but the officer's knee is in his side. That's keeping him in the car. You can't split this guy in half to get him to do both commands. You can't do that. It's impossible. So it's tough, and I feel bad for a lot of the cops that definitely don't stand for this type of injustice. I
They need
feel
to speak
bad for a
up.
lot of the cops. Well, and that's what I was about to get to. I feel bad for a lot of the cops that feel like, oh man, I can't say anything because it's my job or my protection, or when I go to work, I got to worry about not only criminals but the people that I work with trying to kill
Smart
me. I
criminals.
feel bad for those guys. Right, right. I feel bad for them because you're part of the reason why the frustration keeps settling in, because for all the good cops that are out there, because they do exist, for all
Oh,
the good cops that are
good
out
one.
there, those good cops need to be the ones to say something before the public has to say it. You're
I
there
think,
with some of these
yeah,
guys, you're hearing the comments, and it's hard, it's very tough.
I think what people fail to realize is that, anyone who is, deeply racist or whatever could perform any job.
Right.
Right,
And
any
and
job.
and so people just blanket all cops, and I would never do that. I have family in law enforcement. I have very close friends in law enforcement, and never would I say that it's all of them. And that's the same across the board with everything. People are who they are, and they can do any job. So I think the fact that people will say all cops ain't shit or whatever it is, like
That's wrong.
it's just stupid. Yeah.
Right, it's wrong. Like I said at the beginning, it's not about white people. It's not about cops. It's about racism. And the only reason I do mention those two topics, white people and cops, because I feel that a lot of people are making it on both sides. They're making it about those two things. There are it's not about that. It's about the racism, and the racism
Yeah.
racist can
I
work
mean, it's a
anywhere. They can be
combination of
anywhere.
things. It's a combination of things
Oh,
because there's also an exertion of
some deep root
power.
issues.
Right.
Right,
Right.
right. There's still some deep rooted issues. Right. That you know.
But
I was so.
I
Go
think
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think
Al.
I think Jen's point's are stronger. Yeah, there's racism instilled in this, but it's also the amount because for all those people who've gotten killed or beat or pulled over who weren't minorities, who still have had the same fate um, at the hands of cops. It's not just the fact that there's systemic racism, especially in law enforcement, that's existed since the beginning of time,
Built off racism.
built off racism,
Yeah.
and it's also the point that the police force is protected like no other force. Not even the military. If you accidentally kill somebody, there's an investigation right away and heads will roll. I tell you that for a fact because I've seen it happen. Like those accidental shootings, investigations happen. They happen swiftly, and then within a month, somebody's charged. And because especially in the military, you want to hold it to the highest standard possible. You don't want to muddle it
Right.
because a few bad apples. You want to hold it to the highest standards. For cops, though, they have a lot that protects them, where they can go to a little bit further than they're supposed to, and as long as they provide the illusion or the idea that they feel threatened or that they gave a command and wasn't followed, so they automatically used as much force as they needed to. I think that's protected them for the longest time, which has allowed them to get away with so much
Shit.
abuse of power. Perfect
Mhm.
example. Yesterday, one of the most horrific videos I saw was an old man in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. And the thing is, he had found a police helmet. And he was
Mhm.
returning it, and those two cops pushed him, and then they didn't even stop. They kept walking over them.
Well,
And
no, there was the one guy. There was the one guy. He
yeah,
stopped. And he was
Yeah.
about. He was
and the
about to
sergeant
help.
pushed him. Yeah, yeah.
Yo,
Yep.
keep going. Keep
Yep.
going.
And
Like,
that's the thing though. Like you did wrong, and you're trying to come back to fix it, or say fuck what I do. Because even the other guy who pushed him, you could tell he stops for a while. He looks back and he doesn't know what to do. And then the other guy, the other protester comes, and all the cops around him. It's like you were following orders, but as very well as everybody knows, following orders that are unlawful, you don't have to do it because the minute you follow an order that's unlawful, you are committing to that crime.
Right.
You are becoming an accessory. If somebody says, "Hey, shoot that guy who's unarmed," and you shoot him, that's an accessory to the crime. You're following an order, but in the U.S., especially after the Nuremberg trials, that idea, like I was following order, that doesn't work. Like if you feel that something's unlawful under the Constitution, and somebody's telling you to do it, you can go ahead and say no. The thing is that it's happened a lot where you'll see police officers get blacklisted and kicked out the force.
or they
Because
get they
you
get
are
they
disabled.
get dumped. They get demoted,
They get
or they
demoted.
end up, or they work with people
Yeah,
that show that they don't want them there. And so
right.
at any given time and any given opportunity, they're put in a dangerous situation, even though they're supposed to have backup. Sometimes
Right.
the worst thing you can do at that time is ask for backup because you know
Right.
the people that's coming to back you up want to see you
Mhm.
And that's
ill-willed.
And that's part of the change that needs to happen. They need to take that protection away from police officers because they have to understand there are consequences. Just like you go and you arrest somebody for the shit that they did, you should be held
Yeah.
accountable because you're no higher or no less than a human being. Everybody makes out military people to be heroes because they jump on grenades and do all kinds of crazy
Because
shit.
they do the tough jobs, but doing the tough job doesn't make you a hero if you're a bad person.
Exactly, and so they have to be held more. I think if the accountability was there, where cops no longer could just justify like, "Oh, I was afraid for my life," and then you look at the situation like, "This is a 16-year-old girl you punched in the face. You were afraid for your life for a 16-year-old that
Mhm.
While she was locked up,
right?
look, while she was already in
girl.
your she was already in your
Right.
possession with handcuffs on, and you decided you was gonna punch her now because you fear for your life. You
Or
already had her.
yeah, and there's a lot of laws that protect it. One law that's come up that I forgot that happened a couple years ago in New York City. There's 34 states that do not find it a crime if a police officer rapes their person they took into custody. 34
Wow,
states
and
do not consider that a crime. So you're telling me that if I handcuff somebody, as long as I'm a cop and I'm in one of those 34 states, it's gonna be a slap on the wrist. So that's
Wow.
too much power. That is way too much power to be given an individual. Most individuals who don't have a psych eval, who don't get vetted properly, who all you have to do is pass the academy and have a degree. In some certain circumstances, certain places, you just have to graduate from high school, have an associate.
Yeah.
That's all it takes to. And meanwhile, you have people who are going through special forces. Those motherfuckers get vetted like crazy. They weed out the worst so this shit doesn't happen. And occasionally one or two will still get through. But that's a process because those are the elite of the elite. If you're choosing these individuals to be the elite of your society, you better vet the shit out of them. You better stop saying, "Oh, his daddy was a fucking cop." Fuck him and his daddy. If he doesn't qualify, he kiss his daddy's ass because he wasn't a cop. They need to start raising those standards because this boy. And the thing that pisses me off is a lot of my cop friends. I ask them, "Are you just gonna stay shut about this?" And they say, "Well, we don't know the full report."
Yeah.
Dude, it's a fucking 16-year-old girl. How much do you have to know?
There's actually more criteria to be law enforcement than to be president.
Which
right.
Like president is you have to be 35 years of age, 14 years a resident, and a natural born citizen. That's it. You don't have to be smart.
As our current
administration. But yeah, that's tough.
45's proven that over and over again. So listen, so we, and this isn't to say that all police officers, once again, for anyone that's just joined, it's not to say all police officers are bad. It's just that we know that, some of the requirements to become a police officer makes it easier for some people to hide behind that badge and do the dirt that they choose to do as racists or as people that do not want to see others excel and move forward. I do want to applaud, the shitty people. I do want to applaud the police officers that are running with the protesters, that's standing there in solidarity, that are still trying to keep that line intact, because the community needs the police, but we need each other more than that, because if for all of my police friends, all the people that I've grown up around that became police officers or whatever, I know that they have a high respect for the community that they grew up in, but they also know that they have a job to do. Now, if you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. But when it comes down to it, they are about saving and protecting and serving the community that has them in a position that they're in. And I say that for all of the police officers that I know, and we thank you and we applaud you and we respect your efforts, because it's not easy, but continue to do what you're doing with standing with this injustice that's occurring. Please, we can't do it. We can't do it without you in your uniform or out of your uniform. And street clothing is I'm not saying it's not enough. It's just that in street clothing, not everyone can tell that. Wait a second, I'm, the same people that I'm thinking I'm fighting against. They're here supporting me.
White bands say otherwise.
Right.
Well, yeah.
They out there throwing bricks. Yo, we got bricks.
Hold on, wait a second.
Bricks end up in the middle of a road, and I'm like,
no, right next.
Who's going around?
Yeah, where do you even find bricks?
This shit sinister. If that don't prove it, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Listen, it was a wheelbarrow. It was a wheelbarrow of rocks and boulders next to like this high-end store, and it's like, nah, that's not.
Like, what the fuck?
This is like some Watchmen shit right now.
I mean,
exactly. Like, just get the glass cutter.
That type of sinister thinking, though. Not really.
Yeah, but we know that it's happened for years and for a bunch of different movements and protests. That is part of what does happen. You have those that infiltrate and they seek to either cause more mass chaos or they do it to help continue the harshful systematic persona of. I can't even get my words together. Somebody help me.
Basically, posing as allies, but going against your cause while in your cause.
Right, while in your cause. Right, exactly. Let
me impose a question on you guys. Somebody asked me a while back, and it just kind of popped in my head. The police force and the impoverished community, especially in impoverished communities or ghettos, whatever you want to call them, they both suffer from the same stigma.
Yeah.
And the person, they said the stigma is the ideology of bitches snitches get stitches, because the cops won't rat out on each other. The community won't rat out on each other.
Wow.
So
Well-
community, which is true, because I lived in Patterson my whole life,
for the cops.
and everybody knows who shot somebody, but nobody's calling the cops to say, "Yo, I know who shot that kid on 8th Avenue on the 4th Ward," but nobody's saying it.
All right, so
you are the very
Actually,
reason
Omar, you're probably gonna get in trouble for even saying the street.
whatever. It's fine.
no,
I don't live in Patterson anymore. Fuck them.
no, not fuck them. Chill out. Damn, I still live in Patterson.
No, but the idea is that
It's not that bad. Hold
no,
on, but I hear you.
The idea is that both the cops and the community suffer from that stigma where nobody's gonna empower themselves to say, okay, this was wrong, and I'm gonna stand up and say this person did it.
Right. Now, go ahead, Lauren.
Well, I was gonna bring that up earlier because I've been talking about, well, maybe I haven't been talking about it as much as I think, but over the last few years, I've been trying to be a little more truthful, a little bit, but people don't want to hear the truth.
Wait, so you've been lying all this time?
Well, I told you the other day, if I said half the things I thought,
she definitely did.
But omission is betrayal.
Yeah, probably, but people don't want to hear the truth. Like I have been told numerous times, "Oh, you're an asshole." Oh. And
really? People told you that?
Yeah,
Lauren?
and you know what? When I hear it, I'm like, you might have a point. You might, instead of just immediately.
That's valid.
Oh, yeah,
your idea has merit.
You're right.
I like where you're going with this.
Yeah,
right? So instead of being,
tell me more, so I can be more of an asshole to you.
Right? Like, what exactly am I doing? Because I'd like to improve. So
it's obviously not working. You still keep coming around.
Oh no, some people like that. We've been friends for 25 years. So
yeah.
I feel like people don't want to hear the truth, and people don't want to take accountability in general for whatever reason. And even when you grow up as a child, like I was just talking about this earlier today, there's this idea of, oh, well, you don't tattletale on your brother or your cousin or whomever. Now, for little silly things, yeah, you don't rat them out. But sometimes everybody has that weird cousin, sibling, someone who's starting to like light stuff on fire and do other little crazy things, like the makings of a psychopath, but you're taught not to rat, right? So you don't. Then they become a cop, right? 20 years later. And that same psychopath who was lighting things on fire is now in the police force. But guess what? When he gets there, you have 19 good people around him, but you're trained to not snitch, right? And we can't be accountable. We're not taught accountability and truth telling from a young age.
That word again, accountability.
The truth, the honest part of all of this, or the truth about all of this, is that every single action that is resulting in something negative is always based in fear. So any of the racism, even the fact that the truth is scary. Okay,
Yeah.
the truth is scary, and the idea or premise behind snitching is based in fear as well, because it's fear of retaliation, it's fear of being excluded. However you want to look at it, in any different perspective, it's based in fear. So I think a major hump that I think people, in order to change anything, and in order for anything that we do to be effective and promote change, a change has to happen within each individual first. And I think that's where collectively we aren't going to see major change in our lifetime.
True.
I understand the protests. I understand the message. Okay. It's not about understanding. It's about getting people to look introspectively, right? And see, what is it that I'm doing? Why is this happening? Okay. It's okay to be outraged, right? But the only real change is going to come within who you are as an individual. And then we can collectively come together and make a change. So right now, I think, even me not having children, right now, I think the most important thing is that not only should you stand in solidarity with other people in the community, but instill that same energy in your children moving forward.
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So where it doesn't get to the point where a cop has any fear in your heart. You know what I mean? So, or anybody who is being a bigot or is being racist or anything like that, so that you don't live with a fear that is crippling. Because hate is one thing, right? And it takes the same amount of energy to hate someone as it does to love someone, right? But fear is crippling, and there's a big, huge difference between those things.
And with exactly what you said, fear is all purposeful. Fear is all purposeful. We are taught fear from the beginning, from the essence of time. We're taught fear, and like you said, hate and love is the same energy, just working in reverse.
Mhm.
If we got a better understanding of the things that we fear, and got a better understanding of it, like we will be able to change so much more than just momentary points in time. We can change the way that everyone thinks. But you know what fear also brings? Someone with retrospect or ideas that's not going to be accepted by all because of their fear of how someone may do it. They may innately create something that's more harmful than helpful because of that fear. And sometimes those things start off with a purpose that's bigger than us all. But if the person doesn't teach the correct message as they're instilling it into others, the message gets lost and it just becomes what we see in modern day with all these different gangs, whether it be a gang of police officers who don't know how to handle tough situations with one another, or gangs on the streets that don't know how to handle their situations with one another.
Well said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah,
That's
thank
easy.
you for that, Jen. So Jen, now I do have you guys talk about a lot of these issues on Proverbial Paradigm also, Jen and Lauren.
We don't actually.
They talk about robots.
We talk about a lot of things. We just talk about like real life issues. Not that
That's
this
what we're
isn't real
talking about
life,
here.
Yeah,
but I mean like everyday
somebody like
life.
somebody
Yeah.
like to
Like,
hold
Mercury,
All
we
right.
we have lighter
yeah.
conversations.
and sex
Somebody,
dolls.
Um,
somebody likes to hold a grudge. I think I'm pointing correctly.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No.
yeah. So we have lighter conversations, but I actually have wanted to pose a question.
Oh.
Mhm.
What do you think about the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter?
All
Okay.
lives matter is
So
silly, but go on. That's what I
so what I think about it is the whole purpose of Black Lives Matter is because there has not been an understanding of why Black Lives Matter, whereas everyone already knows that all lives matter.
Right.
But for those that are not understanding why Black Lives Matter, that's why Black Lives Matter. Because
Yeah.
you're not understanding that,
That's
you know
true.
what, we are just we are just the same with different skin colors. So don't treat it any differently. Don't take
Right.
away anything because of my skin color. I can't change the fact that I'm the color that I am, and that I grow where I grow, and that I'm the person that I am. My heart and my skin, my heart and my blood bleeds the same as yours. Treat me that way. We are all human. The race is not black race, white race. It's human race. We're
Yep.
here together.
I'm only here for a short period of time, too. Like in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things.
So that's how I feel about it.
Sure. You know, I think one of the things that I hope I don't get in trouble for this, that I never liked about Black Lives Matter. Let me finish. It's not
Here we go.
Here it comes
Here we
back.
go.
not the theory.
The only black woman on the panel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm about to break it down. So it's not the concept of it. I think so many people get caught up on the dangling word at the end, which is to or also. People discredit it because it stops short. Now, people with sense that are willing to understand what it means get it. Like you get that there's I know. And Joe Biden said today, I think it was today, that like 10 to 15% of Americans are like not good people, which I think is an underestimate. Like I think
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
more like 30%.
Absolutely.
But that's
It's
Yeah.
more like 35%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sure.
included in that they're not just bad people, they're willfully ignorant. They don't want to hear why the phrase
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter even has to exist. Now,
Yeah,
I watched,
ignorance is bliss.
They'll just turn it off. Oh, what the? What are you
yeah,
talking?
exactly. What is this? And then of course they love the whole all lives, all lives. But one of
That's
the
what
very
I'm
first,
saying.
yeah, it's like yeah, we agree. Just we need a little bit of that
We just need
consideration.
to level the playing field a little bit.
Right.
You
Well,
know, it is this. Yeah, go ahead.
I shared with someone the other day because I got into, all right, Pee Wee Herman put up a Black Lives Matter post. So, that's my boo. So I went into his
Paul
comments,
Rubenstein.
Pee Wee Herman. So people were going in on him and they're like, oh, I can't believe you did this. I'm never going to follow you. Stick to what you know. So I got into a Facebook debate with someone, but
Oh boy.
my Facebook debates are very respectful and educational because I feel like I have to evolve as a person. So
Right.
this person was trying to say, they said something like, what do you mean? All lives matter, blah, blah. And so I said, where did you ever see that, like where he said other lives don't matter? And he's like, well, don't put a spin on it. And I said, well, it's your words, your spin. And he said, I don't mean it like that. I love all people. We all bleed the same. And I said, okay. I said, here are some articles to educate yourself because
Yeah.
it has been proven that doctors don't see Black people the same. They
No.
believe that we don't feel pain the same.
Yeah.
The Black maternal death rate
They're
is,
killing Black women in
yes,
their pregnancies.
we're outpacing third world countries for Black maternal death. They did that doll study back in, I think it was the 60s, where they gave kids,
Oh,
black
yeah.
doll, white doll. It has been proven that this is ingrained in people. So it doesn't matter if you feel like you're not a racist. That's not enough. Good for you. Congratulations. Now do something about it if you really feel that way. Right.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I have non-Black friends and family. Okay, white friends and family. They don't walk around saying, I'm not a racist. Congratulations. No, what they do is they hail cabs for us. They make restaurant reservations for us. Like they step in areas where they know if we step up, it's going to be a problem. So they step in without saying a word and handle certain things so that we can all move forward. Use your privilege for good.
Yep.
It's sad that that's the way it is. But
It is very,
People
very
have to
sad.
acknowledge the privilege. There's some people that
Right.
are. I see with everything happening now. I see a lot more, like more white people or people who usually would probably turn away at it, either being more allied to the cause, or in an opening position where there's like, okay, let me find out some more information. They're willing to learn. They're willing to stop being willfully
Right.
ignorant, and they'd be like, all right, well, who has some stuff they could show me? And then I was reading a Twitter thread like 4 a.m. About some lady, white lady. She was writing a book or something. She just found out about Fred Hampton and blew her mind.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she's sharing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh man, thank you. I never knew about this.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that introspection, because it's like, okay, what part of some white people don't realize they're privileged?
Mm-hmm. You have to acknowledge.
They are
No,
completely
no.
oblivious.
Yeah.
Completely oblivious.
Because
Because
it's not fair.
it's
always, it's like
right. It's every
them, so they won't.
Yeah.
right. It's already available. Things are already available for them, and so they don't see how it's difficult for
Right.
other people to obtain those things. I have same like you, Lauren. I have family members that are of all ethnicities. I actually love my family, my in-laws, my current family, my blood family. I love them so much because I get to
You
see
listen
a
to
different.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
They
thank
watching?
You're watching?
I don't know if they're watching. I love them, but they don't. I don't even know if they watch. So I don't know how much. I don't love y'all that much. No, but I love them because anytime that I go to a family function, I swear it's like the super United Nations. It's like the super United Nations, and that's what I live for. That I love that. I love the fact that I get to experience all these different cultures, all these different ethnicities. Different levels of educations. My father-in-law speaks 6 languages. My brother-in-law speaks 6 languages. I'm barely understanding English. No, I'm joking.
No,
But
Actually, we agree.
sometimes. Thank you guys. But I really appreciate that. And I my wife, she was having a conversation with one of the family members, and it was funny because the younger children who have black friends are starting to, like, 7, 8, 9 years old, starting to put together, like, oh my gosh, this can happen to my friend. And so now here we are. We've seen it. Racism isn't something that's there. That's something that's taught. That you're not born a racist, but you can learn how to be a racist from birth. And if we stop doing that part, however it needs to happen, because sometimes we have there's no such thing as reverse racism too, folks. Just if you are watching, there's no such thing. It's not a real thing. It's something that was made up. But there is a such thing as being a racist and being the same race or the same culture or the same ethnicity that you're racist against. That's possible, and then you don't even understand how you're projecting that energy off to the youth, to the future, to your kids, your nieces, your nephews. It's tough, and that's what we have to get a better understanding of ourselves. Like you said, Jen, that introspective look at yourself to find out what it is that you fear that's helping you create more hate in the world, because that's what it is. That fear is helping you create hate. But fear can help you create love too. And that's what we should be focused on. How can we create love from the things that we fear? I'm not going to love a zombie, but I will love to save as many people as I can in the zombie apocalypse as I kill the zombies.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
But yeah,
sorry.
it's always going to go back to that introspection. That's the same thing when, a Caucasian or white person will not realize that they're privileged. So then they need to look introspectively and say, okay, what do I need to do going forward? How do I change this? Right? So because they were just walking around being oblivious, and that's where the most change is going to come.
Yes.
On an individual level.
Because we don't get nowhere with our allies, honestly.
You're right.
Yeah. Well,
we organize ourselves, but we'll get allies.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
I think maybe part of what could help is to start using different terms. Like, I think as soon as people hear privilege,
yes,
and especially white privilege, they've heard it so much and they just automatically have
a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Because privilege is invisible to those who have it.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Call me that. I don't
and
have that.
And then they always equate it to money, and I had to work hard too. And it's like, well, you didn't work hard in like comprehension class.
Sometimes it's access.
Yeah, like it's not.
Right.
Sometimes it's as simple as getting a Band-Aid. Or me and you went to dance school. Like, I used to always have to wear tan tights, and I hated that. My skin is not this color. Like, I am not suntan.
Yeah,
I hated that so much growing up. Band-Aids. Oh, it's nude color. That's not my nude. My nude is this, not this. Well, this here.
Yeah, if you got cut here, you're good.
The bottom of your foot. The bottom of your foot or the bottom of your hand.
Yeah. And then nobody's gonna see that. I gotta walk around all day like this. Like, imagine. So
listen, the best thing that they could have done. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. You were talking.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say the best thing that they could have done is just understand what privilege is, why you are privileged, and then don't accidentally use it to serve. Seeing this so rough because you can't change the things that you can't change, but you can bring light to it. So, and I guess that's the start of change. I guess that's really the start of change. But you're not going to stop being white. You're not going to stop being Spanish. You're not going to stop being black. We can't stop those things. But let's bring light to those things so that other people don't have to feel like, oh, because that person is of that ethnicity or that color, that this is this is what they're expecting to happen, or this is what we're expecting from them.
I tried to look up. Side note: I tried to look up a better word for privilege.
Yeah.
None.
There was none.
Authority, benefit, entitlement. It's like,
hold on. So wait a second.
It's all negative. It's all
so
negative.
Wait a second. So privilege was the better word.
Yeah. Unfortunately, license, prerogative, maybe.
Yeah.
Sound
prerogative.
That makes me think of Bobby Brown.
Well, they might like it better. You have Brown prerogative. Like it could be like a syndrome. Yeah, it could be like a mental syndrome.
All right, I don't think we need any more mental anything going on, because then there's gonna be, oh, my brown prerogative made me do this. We don't need that.
Yeah, but I did see a good example of someone using their white privilege for good during one of these protests. This police officer was getting into it with a black person. I don't remember if it was a male or I think it was a woman. And I think he like punched her or hit her. And this white woman threw a bike at him. But the funny thing is, the funny thing is,
A bike, a whole
yeah,
bike.
a bike, threw a bike. But you know what was funny? He kind of caught it and he went to go lunge at her. And guess what he did? He stopped.
Yep.
Yep. And that's the whole thing. When they see us, it's just okay. I can hit you. You're nothing. You're insignificant. You're probably a criminal,
trash.
a loser, a welfare queen, right?
Human.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna lunge at her because she looks like my wife, sister, daughter, mother, best friend. You know.
So you could put, and it's crazy for people to be able to put that association together, but can't put the association of the whole purpose of the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I have a cousin that me and him we used to talk a lot, and he used to talk about how man, it was more or less how the black race has always been seen as something different.
Come on, shot.
What is that? Yeah,
okay.
we got to mention it. That we've always been seen as something different, and yes, we all know that. Everyone in this world knows that. Everyone knows that none of us are seen the same. And for a lot of people that are Black, African American, we all bring something different to the table. But when it comes to certain entertainment aspects or different events, it seems that Black people are always expected to excel when against someone else. But for those great things that you want to keep us in praise for, you can't think of how we want to excel, or excuse me, we want to just be part of the same humanity and respect of humanity that everyone else is. That's crazy. It's amazing to me how we still say that again.
Listen, stay in your box, stay in your lane. This is where we like you. Right. We don't want to see you go anywhere else because you're going to get out of our comfort zone.
You're gonna get out of our comfort zone. We don't care about your comfort. It's our comfort zone. And I know, I know it's crazy, but those that are in power, like the NFL. So it made me think of that because of the NFL. NFL, they had this whole thing with Colin Kaepernick, and now they are saying how they are in solidarity. But
you see the video? Roger Goodell put out a video like, "Oh yeah, wrong. Like, prove it."
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is,
now all you
change
the behavior.
It's the thing. It irks me because I work for a company who just a month ago a Huffington Post article came out about the conditions in the warehouse and how people felt afraid to go to work based on COVID-19. Right. And they had to overcome this whole article. Right. And then now this same company is contributing $1 million to Black designers because I work in the fashion industry, right? And on one hand, I'm like, okay, some businesses are damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they don't mention anything about what's going on in the community, especially if they, that's a big part of their, market share, then, they get criticized for not saying anything. And then on the other side of it, it seems very, very hypocritical and like they're taking it not as something as social responsibility, but more of a marketing scheme.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I asked that question earlier, and I didn't mean to necessarily pull Nike and Reebok into it, but they were two of the first bigger companies that I saw that really said how they stand in solidarity. But I've heard when it comes to like timelines and things like that, like you don't meet your timelines, you're out of there. But if people are still standing in solidarity and they're still protesting for those that are in the the African American workers that they have and the style design. So you're telling me if they don't meet their deadlines, we're going to be okay right now. So that's great. But if it comes back to it and it's like, no, not meeting deadline, just jobs in general, how does that look? A month ago, you said that you stand with us, and now because we're back open and running, business as usual, I'm still doing the same protesting, and now you don't stand with me in my job, but you stand with the movement.
Top, these statements are cool, but Prove
But
it.
Yeah, and the reason why this has gotten so out of hand is because people are home, is because people are out of work. But this wouldn't, I don't think, would have been nearly as big if people had to work.
here's my thing. It's only in the time of Steve Jobs where we started associating an individual to a company, and that individual is who wanted us to, be part of the company. The Steve Jobs or the Teslas, the Amazons, where we are more in love with the CEOs and the way they conduct themselves and the way they came up from the ground up than we are actually with the company. Because how long do you remember a time when the companies didn't have to say if they were standing behind because they were just companies and all they
Right.
did was just
Yeah, back in the 80s.
They were just a
It
machine.
became,
right.
yeah, it,
They
it
were
Why
just
do
became a
we have to
thing.
choose a side? We have employees who are on both sides. We don't want to offend one or the other. The company should stay neutral. But again, I think it was after the point when we started making the individuals the face of the company, where we
that
had
it
to
had to
start
happen.
right.
Yeah, and
Why?
it happened. It happened a lot because of the millennial generation, which I hate to say, and Lauren will contest that because she is in denial that she's a millennial.
She's
But
a
God,
millennial. I
um,
couldn't tell.
Aren't
social
we all millennials?
responsibility for the millennial generation just became important. It
Right.
it like
Mhm.
going green, social responsibility. So you have companies like Tom's, Warby Parker, and all of those types of companies who include social responsibility in their business model.
Hmm.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So
Because
that contributed to it as well.
well, and you know what's funny? They include that in the business model because they understand that advertising. We all know advertising is word of mouth. The more you talk about a company, the more that company gets looked at, whether it's for good or bad. But hopefully that bad turns into good, and the good just continues to be good. So if now I tell you anything that you put up on your social media in regards to the company has to be in respect of the company or how you will uphold yourself as
Right.
a working bee for this company, you're going to change a lot of the way, a lot of the things that you would say. Hopefully, there's still people that don't, and sometimes it's because they feel like it doesn't pertain to them. They feel
Try to
like
get out of it.
It goes
it's
back to
their
Roderick's point.
prerogative.
So it goes back to Roderick's point where like
Prerogative.
he's literally saying that. I mean, most of these companies they're not even doing it because they really care. They're just doing it because hey, this is sales, and if we
Right.
Right,
don't get on it, we don't
Mhm.
right,
get sales.
right.
Like so, at this point, it's like I would be almost okay with saying, you know what, if you're a company, you can shut the fuck up and not say anything. Go back and make your shoes and shit. Because honestly, like you're not really choosing the side because you want to choose a side. You're choosing the side because you're hoping you get more sales.
Yeah.
Like, stay
Yeah.
stay in business, stay doing what you do. Let people, make the choice for what they want to fight for, what their arguments will, what they're gonna protest, and you can just, keep quiet and keep going back to making your shoes. Because honestly, we're taking companies' words like yes, they really do care. But like, as we all seen, Facebook doesn't give a shit. Facebook wants to put whatever they want on their
That
advertising.
Android looking motherfucker who run that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the
And
people who work there, a lot of them aren't like that. They really have
Yeah.
the genuine love for what they're doing and they want to make a better world through this app. So I think it's high time we just say to the companies, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna stop with this making the face of the company who the company is, because a lot of motherfuckers who are the face of the companies are faces you really want to punch in the face. So
right.
let's just let it be and move on. The company is a company. Don't ask them what they believe in. Let's just ask the people what they believe in, because
But
ultimately it's the
Well,
people who's choice.
I mean,
Part of
well, I kind of
electric Ben and
I kind
Jerry.
of feel like listen, I kind of feel like it's not a bad idea that your company, if the company truly stands for the people, the company truly is 100% behind something like that. I don't feel like that's a bad thing for them to do it. But like Rod says, your actions speak louder than your words. For you to say it is one thing, but you to
Right.
actually show it something else. As a matter of fact, which I truly feel, if you do something without saying it, I think I have a high level of respect for the things that you've done, because you didn't need to say it for people's attention. You did it for what the purpose of it was, and
Right.
it's a great thing. And that's what maybe these
But they
companies should do.
leverage it. They leverage it. So they'll do the good in exchange for the sales.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this isn't really a country. It's a business and it's being run by one of the worst business people ever.
Right.
No, no, he's a smart businessman because he knows how to sell everything to the highest bidder and get out. That's
I mean,
that's what.
I meant worse,
Listen,
like morally.
oh, morally. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
horrible, horrible.
I mean, the
But see,
photo op to prove that.
Shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, hold on.
Yeah.
You mean the photo op that he didn't know that they were gonna go and do that and then take a picture of him? I didn't know
Why
that
the
that
fuck
was
is
gonna
it in the
happen.
Bible?
I
Well,
didn't know that there was
because not
people
every
there.
person has a camera in their hand, in their pocket.
Right.
Struggle not the bunker for that bullshit.
Yeah, for real.
Be like,
You
yeah,
know, Ivanka ain't never read a fucking Bible in her life. You can ask Quincy Jones about that.
the shit was upside down.
Yeah, it was upset. And when you have a priest and a bishop both basically saying you're full of
Shit.
crap. Okay, I was trying to be nice.
Come on, you call yourself a and that ain't that.
You start telling
Proverbial
the truth.
paradigm.
Start telling
Come
the
on,
truth,
Proverbial.
Lauren.
Yeah.
I don't
Say
want
it,
to,
yeah.
offend any
Shit.
children listening. But yeah, when you have a priest and a bishop saying that, you've got a problem, sir.
You got a problem,
Listen,
right?
the only thing that's gonna help this man help this set this man right is for the devil himself to come up and say, "Listen, you're a bad person.
No, he
Yeah.
ain't gonna
Join
change.
join
He ain't gonna
me.
change because the
Yeah.
devil comes up and
No.
tells you
The-
about
No,
it.
no,
is
join
bad.
me.
I respect
Okay,
you.
Join me.
I think the devil would be like, "Hey, stop stealing my thunder."
Yeah, come on, bro. I'm trying to take my
You're
job.
like, man,
We're supposed to be red, not orange.
you know,
Yeah.
the
Shit.
student ends up better than the teacher. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what it's looking like.
I honestly think that
It was a dream.
shot, but I think like the way this past week deaded any chance of him getting reelected. But
Yeah.
we'll never know.
You know what?
You never know.
His fan base is nuts.
Listen,
I
Fan
honestly,
base is
I can't call it, but
Yeah.
the funny thing is, the first time around, I did call it. I was like, "This motherfucker's gonna win," and
Was that based
it
off
happened.
of competition or
It was
no,
based
it was just
on.
based off of the
Well, I'm talking
season,
about
the
Herbert.
air, and the. Oh,
Thank you, Rob.
Herbert.
I mean, it was based on the notion that
Jennifer told me.
okay, I mean, we can go off into a tangent about this, but
Right.
if we want to talk about law enforcement and we want to talk about putting black people in jail, the disproportionate amount of black people in jail, and the fact that those people who are in jail can't vote, after the fact that they're put into society, they can't vote. Okay, so it's not even a matter of the people. It's
The laws.
yeah, it's the new Jim Crow.
Yeah.
You know,
Right. You're right, you're doing right.
so like we could go into that. That is a book by Michelle Alexander, by the way. But it is critical that everybody actually get in and vote, and I think that just didn't happen.
Oh,
It didn't happen like it did with Obama.
Oh yeah, they was like, oh fuck.
Right.
Because it was
Well,
in some ways,
it was two people that nobody wanted in there.
Right.
not that I wholeheartedly believe that voting matters that much, because sometimes I think things are rigged, and you know, it's just to create the illusion that you have a voice.
Choice.
Yeah, but really, in that election, you were picking the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
Super evil, yeah.
Right.
Well,
So it was.
I think most elections have been
While I wish it wasn't, you know, him who won, you know, I mostly voted against him, not for the person who was running with him. You know, so
yeah.
Yeah. But a spite vote to me is, you know, it's
better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I saw earlier. I think it was like 2 days ago. Somebody, they put a graph up and it showed of those swing states or those big states that there was like small margins that he won by. It showed the small margin he won by like 23,000 votes, but yet there was 200,000 blacks that did not vote at all.
Right.
So it's like so that goes right back to yes, you might feel a certain way about the whole voting process, but when you don't vote, you're already giving it away.
Right. It's like, was it Jordan who said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take?
You don't take.
No, that was Gretzky actually, but yeah.
Okay, I don't know who it was.
Wait, Wayne Gretzky said that?
Yeah.
Was it Gretzky? Yeah. Was it Gretzky? I didn't know which kind of shot it was. That could go anyway.
Slap shot.
Gretzky, I think they're all stars.
Gretzky? Oh, okay. You know, maybe it was a Jordan documentary that like
I mean,
slipped in my head.
I'm sure
myself.
any athlete could actually literally say that, and then
Yeah. Any athlete that could take a shot. So
he might have actually said it in an interview too. Like
Yeah.
Jordan might have actually said it in an interview because it's a very common phrase to say.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, they're friends too, so it's not like
Yeah, it's not like they haven't picked each other.
Didn't they have a cartoon show one
That's
time?
what
It was
I'm talking
Michael
about,
Jordan,
All-Star.
Wayne Gretzky,
the All-Star.
Bo Jackson, yes.
Bo Jackson. They covered all the popular sports at the time.
Right.
We're
Well, Bo
losing
Jackson
Lauren,
had-
guys.
Lauren,
No,
Oh, yeah,
No.
doing research on something.
Lauren is looking up All Stars so she can see who what sports Bo Jackson played. It was baseball and
Come on,
football.
who
Lauren.
doesn't know Bo
Excuse me.
Jackson?
Don't play
Bo
me.
knows this. Bo knows that.
Go knows
I
that.
don't know.
All right, so Lauren just said the ultimate. I didn't hear anything you said, but I'm just going to repeat the last 3 words. Bo knows Jack.
I heard everything. I heard about Jordan, Gretzky, Bo. All the greatest hits. No, I was looking up some statistics. You know, I like to report accurately.
That's
Oh,
But-
fact checker. Thank you.
oh, what's that?
Yeah, maybe you should go work for Twitter.
What is that?
I would like to.
Well, yeah, you work home. You would work home indefinitely. You would never have to see the office again. It's like,
Oh my god, that's
Which
like a
is the future.
dream.
Like I
they
said,
put all they put all
I
employees.
honestly, I wish I could work from home. I wish they would just not open my office. To be honest.
They all-
Well,
they're gonna do that. They're gonna start looking at the cost, the benefits. to say,
Right?
Yo, do I really need to have 3 floors in Midtown that cost me $10 million? a
Yep.
year? Or do I
Yeah.
drop it to
Well-
1 floor and have everybody work from home?
Mhm.
you know what I started thinking about? Hey, Rob, what's that space renting app? Like you can rent space for like a few hours. What's the name of that app?
Workspace?
No,
Breather.
no, not
Breather.
Workspace.
Breather.
Breather. Listen, all they need, they need to start doing breathers for all of these places. You can rent it out for 2-3 months at a time and let your people work from home. And anytime you have a meeting, you rent out a new space for a week or something and let your people work from home. Anytime you need to get people together, you just rent the space. That'll keep the build. See, we got to think about a few things when you talk about people working from home.
But even
There's
but
still
even,
businesses.
You talk about meetings, not to cut you off, but even with that, like, why go back to person when you could just keep the Zoom shit going?
Right.
I'm not saying
That's true.
or against it, but if we talk about
Yeah, I mean,
No,
it's,
that's true.
it's
but
proven to
but I think-
work.
Right,
So-
it works, but I think it's working under stress and under emergency situations. There are things that I feel you need to kind of work hand in hand with people. You can't just do it over a video call because there are other distractions that can occur with video calls, that can occur with working from home. So at times it may be very necessary to work in a better environment for the business aspect that you're working in, you know, among peers. And then there's other times where there should be no reason at all why you can't say, you know what, this week I can work from home. It's a low week on the on paperwork. I'm gonna work from home. I'll submit it at this time, just like if I was at work, and I'm gonna save money on gas. And I'm gonna be good.
Honestly, just like when Omar made the point that, COVID-19 changed the way businesses are really going to look at things now, where they may be able to cross lines that they didn't cross before. I think the same thing is going to happen in this case. When it comes to working from home and things like that. For example, I was on the phone with the client, and her child was in the background. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just have my toddler." I'm like, "Listen, please, we're all working from home right now. If you hear some blasting hip hop music, I promise you I'm not in a club. That is my neighbor upstairs."
He lives in a good part of Riverdale.
Right. So it's like, I think it's a not only a culture change outside of the workforce, but also inside of the workforce. So I think a lot of things, knowing that people will be working from home, are more acceptable.
Right.
Yeah, there should definitely be a difference that's created now with the working from home. So yeah, so I'm saying it's not a bad idea, but I think we got to be mindful of all the other things that kind of come into play with working from home. There's a lot of working together and sometimes in a controlled environment that's necessary. Sometimes, not all the time. I don't know all businesses. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we can definitely.
Bless your heart.
Bless my heart. All right, guys. So listen, we touched on a lot tonight. We touched on a lot, and I do want to thank Jen and Lauren for joining us, keeping us in stitches. Thanks, guys. Proverbial Paradigm. Can we drop a link real quick, Rod?
Okay.
I already dropped the link in Facebook. Lauren,
Let it come up across the screen
If
real quick.
you say our podcast name like that one
Yeah,
more
Never
time,
again.
butchering it all out. Lauren, please take the link,
Proverbial
your own
Paradigm.
butchering.
Yeah. Proverbial Paradigm.
There you go. Have the ladies say it. It's their channel.
Where can you be found? On top of I put the Facebook link in. Outside
SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Where else?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just about
everywhere.
Everywhere. Google,
you can
except
find.
YouTube.
Google Play,
Yeah, except
Except
YouTube.
YouTube.
except YouTube. Yeah.
Yes.
Soon.
Change
And
all.
we're what are we? Prov Paradigm on Twitter.
And Proverbial Paradigm on Facebook and Instagram.
Well, thank you for having us. We had a great time.
Yeah.
glad you
Thank you guys for joining.
This
And
was awesome.
Omar,
What's
Omar,
up?
kudos to your camera. Like that shit is super crisp.
Word. I'm using the
You got-
Canon Beta.
Even DSLR.
You gotta hook me up, man.
Yeah, we
That
talked
is
about this.
dope.
Got you.
I can see every flaw. you
Word.
know?
Right? I'm a little shiny right now. I'm a little shiny. All that greasy food.
You see that zit right here, yo? It's
4K right here. You can tell.
I'm also going to drop a link in for those of you watching now or on the playback who want to support the different causes that's going on right now, whether it be Black Lives Matter, protests. I'm even dropping something for Breonna Taylor. There's stuff you can do for today. Today, at the time of recording, today's her birthday, and still
Happy birthday.
And still,
Happy
unfortunately,
birthday.
no actions have been done to the officers yet. So,
Well, actually, the FBI just reopened the case. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they
Hopefully,
they're
hopefully.
investigating it.
that's definitely progress. So I'm dropped those 2 links in there. So in case there's things to help out and contribute to there too. So quarantine show. This is something that L kind of started and we're still trying to put together. So it's amazing how the timing of all this has been happening, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say. El, you want to take us home?
All right. Yeah. So thank you guys once again. Always applaud and thank you for our essential workers. I'm glad that we're starting to get back to a little bit better of a time and space with the social distancing. Summer's coming up, so we got to figure something out. But remember to stay safe, stay protected, and and remember, we're here on this floating earth together. So let's do it together. All right.
Use protection doing that too.
right.
All right. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. Somebody give her that cue card.
I agree.
I agree. This is Levon for Tech Guy,
Rod,
Omar,
and
the 2 lovely ladies,
Lauren
And Jennifer.
there you go.
I agree. Oh, wait a second. All right, wait a second. I got to figure this out. Lauren, you're right here, Lauren.
Yes.
Yeah.
Omar, you're right here.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jen, you're right.
You have 2 hands. 2 hands.
Can't. I have no. I don't
You're
know
here.
where.
And
There.
I want you to point at Rod, Jen. There we go. All right. See, it's not as easy as you guys think. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. The youngest
agree.
one and girls.
All right. Thank you all for watching.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, for those of you watching
enjoy.
now on a rewatch or whatever, appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to check out the links and watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Wait. Once again,
No
there's nothing
more.
going on IG Live. No, there's nothing going on IG Live tonight, folks.
Show's
That's
over,
it.
everybody. Go home.
That's it.
Go.
Okay.
Why are you still here?
stay
I feel like
home.
Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
Why are you still here? Go
Trying.
home.
I was
Go home.
keep putting in stuff. All right. All right. Thank you all. Good night.
See ya.